Today, we're going to be talking about who owns a corporation. And we're going to get started right now. Hi, my name is Taylor Darcy with Darcy Law. I work with startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses to help them with their legal needs. So, you've decided to start a corporation. You're confused about all of the different language. I'm here to help make it easy and simple for you. So a corporation is simply owned, and I've talked about it in other videos, so check them out, is why a corporation, how to form a corporation. But in this instance, the question was, who owns a corporation? The shareholders own the corporation. What is a shareholder? A shareholder is someone who has bought stock or a share in that particular corporation. What is stock? It is essentially an ownership interest in that corporation. In a fancy term called equity, means that you have a right to the profits and in some instances the loss of that company. And that's done under the guise of shares. So if you own, and we'll use simple examples. So if you own 50% of a company, you have a right to 50% of the profits and losses of the company. If it gets a little more complicated, the bigger the corporation, because a lot of these bigger corporations have thousands and hundreds of thousands of stock, and it gets sold frequently back and forth. And so there's a lot of instances where you might only own a fraction of a company, but you're still entitled to rights and privileges based upon the number of shares that you own. Now, typically, most people don't own just a single share in a company. It's more likely that you own several shares or hundreds of shares or even thousands of shares. It completely depends on your money and how much you want to buy. Now, that's what most people consider would be for like a public corporation. For a private corporation, something that was just formed, like the companies that I typically work with, the ownership interest is pretty simple in that if you have four partners and you start a company with 1,000 shares and each partner has 250 shares, then you have 25% interest in the company, which means you're entitled to 25% of the profits of the company. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other ways that are compensated, and we'll talk about more in depth about like what an S corporation is and then other types of compensation and so on and so forth. But as a shareholder, that's who you are. You are the owner of the company. And so that comes with certain rights. And it also means that, for instance, that your vote, you get however many votes on who are the directors. Now, typically in a small corporation, a shareholder, a director, and a chief executive officer are pretty much the same people. Okay, they wear multiple hats and they can be multiple things. It only becomes, as far as votes are concerned, when it's like a bigger corporation, it might still be private, but a bigger corporation where you've got a shareholder, a board of directors, and a chief executive, and they're all very different positions. You hire people to do those things. You bring on board members to make these types of decisions to help you build your business. And so, but at the end of the day, the most important person is the person that put that money in, right? You took a risk. And so equity, as I talked about earlier, is fairly well rewarded because there's a ton of I shouldn't say a ton. There's a lot of risk with being an equity holder in a business, and the reason why is because if something bad happens, i.e., bankruptcy or a type of insolvency, then the equity holders are typically last in line. Now, depending on the corporation, you can have different types of shareholders, and we won't go into those details right now because they're not important for this video, but for future videos, for your reference, there are what are called preferred shareholders or preferred stock, and then there's what's called common stock. And again, we won't go into those details, but you can have different classes of stock so that you can truly structure a business how you would like it to be to make sure that you're getting compensated for the level of risk that you're taking. And so those are all factors that we talk about when we're forming a corporation. But as far as who owns it, who owns a corporation, it's the shareholders. That's the 2-second version. But it can get a lot more complicated the bigger a corporation gets, as well as how it's run. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to help you out. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Reach out. I'd love to talk with you, help you with your business. Have a great day.